Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
This argument will continue, by the way. What was a bigger deal, 79 Whitecaps Soccer Bowl or what's going on right now, CONCACAF Champions Cup
79?
with the Whitecaps? Either way, great times for the Whitecaps, right?
Yeah, 79 was way bigger. I'm sorry. Yes, we're old, but I will never forget 1979, Donnie. Soccer Bowl, the parade in downtown. You weren't there, Ryan. Little Ricky was 12.
Yes,
and
but
was loving it.
your original point was Axel saying it's going to be a bigger deal than 79.
It's not bigger than the 79.
Rick, it's factually a bigger trophy.
What? What does the size of the trophy have to do with it?
No, I
knew you were going to say that.
This cup is amongst all North American teams.
Are you talking about the size of the trophy?
No.
Right, the argument is gone sideways.
Old guys win again.
Well, there's that. But the argument has gone sideways in that you're talking about the importance globally of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. You're right. I'm talking about reaction in town.
Yes.
And reaction in Vancouver.
Will they have
100,000? It was massive. There was a huge parade. It was a big deal. And they did beat some teams that included international stars.
Yes,
led by the New York Cosmos.
Right.
Okay, so there's that. That's what we're talking about. So I think that both sides are right in a way.
You're right.
Just that we're
it's
more right.
It's two different points.
We're right. You're wrong.
Farhan Lalji joins us now from TSN. Were you around for 1979 in the Soccer Bowl? Do you remember that? You're a young guy.
Dude, let me tell you something. This is 2 weeks in a row where I agree with Rick wholeheartedly.
Woo!
And I don't know that that'll ever happen again, but the 79 Soccer Bowl was a bigger deal. I was a season ticket holder in the late 70s and early 80s, even though I was like pretty young, and my dad used to take me, or I would take the bus down to Kootenai Loop and Hastings and walk down to the games at Empire. And I was at the parade, and BC Place is a result of that. Like, remember the chants for "We Want a Stadium," and it's unfortunate that it went, shortly after that, the North American Soccer League went dead, right?
Yep.
It didn't take long after that, but that was in this city an earth mover. And back then, the Whitecaps and the Lions were much more close to the Canucks in terms of relevance. Like, there were three important teams in the city. Nothing touches the Canucks now. So, I get that we're calling this the Champions League, and it includes other teams outside of Canada and the U.S. and all of that, but the North American Soccer League had Pele. It had George Best. Like, we had some big name players from those eras. Beckenbauer, exactly. Great pull. So, that mattered as well. Those were Messi's. Like, you could talk about Pele in GOAT terms, much like you can Messi. So, I can't remember who the stars of the Tampa Bay Rowdies were in the Soccer Bowl.
Yeah, that's who they beat.
That Trevor Weimark scored a couple goals in, and Vancouver won 2-1. And the 79 Soccer Bowl was a big deal.
Meanwhile, and thanks for backing us up, by the way, Farhan. It wasn't only Rick making that argument. I was on his side. Meanwhile, a little hockey news, and we'll get to the CFL Draft in a bit, but a little hockey news. Rick Tocchet leaves the Canucks. Is this because of you and the Vancouver media, Farhan?
Not at all. Like, the truth is, Rick has really good relationships with a number of us that, can call him and have conversations, and, and if he's upset at something, he can call me directly, which he has, and if I've been able to call him directly, and, he's got really good relationships with a number of us. It was not a media thing, but I will say this, the fact that he's chosen to leave is a massive, massive indictment on the state of the franchise, right? This is, for people that don't like it, that, there's a suggestion that the sky is always falling. It's falling, right? This is a big, big deal that term and dollar was there, and he just said no. And do I think family considerations and, living and all this has some consideration? I understand that his brother's health isn't good and he's based in the East, but, I also know that he currently calls Vegas home, right? He's chosen to live in the West. To me, the biggest reason for this move is the fact that this franchise is in a world of hurt right now, and people are concerned, and there has to be concern about the future of Quinn Hughes and what that's going to look like, and Elias Pettersson, and just the state of the roster, the state of the franchise. People talk about dysfunction. All of it is legitimate right now.
Should Manny Maholtra be considered a strong candidate, Farhan? Can they sell Manny Maholtra?
Yeah, I think they can. I think he was very much a favored son in the time that he played here. We all hated seeing what he went through injury-wise, which is not the reason to hire a coach, but the development work that he has done in Abbotsford has been remarkable. Like when you consider how well that team played, especially in the second half of the season when he had virtually his entire roster, like not his entire roster, but a lot of big guns in Vancouver, and this guy continued to find a way to win hockey games. And and he's spent time as an assistant coach on a lot of benches, right? So I think that he's a legitimate option to coach this team, and it'd be easy to throw a name at the problem, but that might just create more problems. So I'm not saying that he should be the front runner for the job or anything like that, but I do think that he should get serious and meaningful consideration for this role.
Farhan, BC Lions, the draft, the Canadian draft. Don Matthews says, used to say that the team with the best Canadians usually wins the Grey Cup. How did the Lions do?
Yeah, I think they did, pretty much as well as they could, given the fact that they didn't, have a pick in the first round, right?
Yeah.
So that was difficult. It was a bit of a top-heavy draft. I don't think there's any question about that. But I thought they did well, and to move up from their second pick to go get Jackson Finley. I was surprised that with their first pick, they took a player that's not going to be here right away because he's going to spend some time in the NFL. Hayden Harris, the defensive lineman from Montana. But eventually, he's a player that it's a reasonable bet that you'll eventually get him back. And Jackson Finley is a great player. He's a great person. He's a character guy, and he's an athlete, right? Like, he's not just a good guy that wants to one day be a doctor. This is a guy that he literally played in a Vanier Cup at 17 years of age, right? And like from day one at Western, he was a starter. The guy can run in the 4.3s in the 40. Now they got him and Christophe Beaulieu, who in the second half of the season became a starter and was a really good piece for them. Now they've got some serious Canadian depth in the draft, guys that can help on specials, guys with position versatility. So I think Finley is going to be a mainstay here. I know there was some concern around the league that he wasn't going to last in the league long because he would eventually want to get on to medical pursuits and other things. But I do believe that Jackson's committed to playing football, and he's fourth generation football player with his dad and grandfather having played and his great grandfather. So I think it's a great story, and I think they did well.
All right, Nathan Rourke's younger brother, Curtis, 7th round of the NFL draft to the 49ers. Talk about that. Always great to see a Canadian quarterback go in the NFL draft.
CFL draft, too.
CFL draft, too.
Yeah, it is. And, very rarely do we look at this and think, oh, my goodness, perfect spot. Like, perfect spot. And, to go to San Francisco with what they require of their quarterbacks, I think it really is a good fit. It's also a staff that, despite the fact that they had some struggles last year, I think they're really they're still safe there. They're stable there, and that really matters because you get into some franchises and it's like hockey, like 2.5 years and Rick Tocchet is gone, and there's a shelf life, but there's such good alignment between Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch and ownership. They're going to be there a while, and this is a team that was confident enough that they could say, okay, we're going to go with Brock Purdy ahead of Trey Lance, who they spent so much draft capital on to get. So there's confidence, there's conviction there. So I think he's going to need some time to get healthy, but when he shows what he can do, I think he'll get a real opportunity there. I have no doubt that he could eventually beat out Mac Jones to be the number 2 guy there in another year. And, whether or not he's ever a starter, we'll see. So much of that is timing, but he could have a long career as a backup down there. And I certainly believe Curtis has the skill set to play in that league.
Farhan, I wasn't aware of this, getting back to Jackson Finley, but his grandfather, Greg Finley, who's, I believe his number's retired by the Lions, is one of the first stars that I can remember when I was watching the BC Lions, and he's passed away, God rest his soul. But I remember him very, very well from back in the day. He was a great BC Lion. This is a great pick because not only does he seem like a great player, but he's got that history in his family tree with the BC Lions.
Yeah, Jackson's grandfather Greg had a 12-year career. Yes. He was a 2-time All-Star. He was a very good BC Lion. He wasn't just a ratio guy, and back then that didn't necessarily happen. Those guys, the Glenn Jacksons and Kevin Konars of the world were good players. They weren't just guys that kind of filled a ratio spot, and Greg Finley was no different. So, yeah, look, I think it's a good pick, and the bloodlines matter. His dad, Anthony Finley, runs Level 10 Fitness in the North Shore, and So the guy spent a ton of time in his entire life training, right? So he understands how to prepare and is fully committed to being an elite athlete.
Love it. Love it. What was it like hosting the CFL Draft? You guys did a great job, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's one of my favorite events of the year. It's just a lot of fun. We get a ton of time to prep, and it's just, 4 guys, 5 guys on set talking football, and we can give these guys some shine, and we can also get into a lot of issues around the league. So it's one of the most fun events I have every year.
Outstanding. Farhan, thanks for this, sir. We'll talk to you next week.
Take care, boys.
You bet.